Hi everyone, this is Ning. I'm happy to present the paper Accord, Closing the Common Sense Measurability Gap. The work is done by Francois, Jingyue, myself, and Frank. Nowadays, there are already a lot of common sense reasoning datasets, but we want to evaluate from a novel perspective, the disentanglement between the common sense grounding and the parametric reasoning. Here's the difference between the two. Common sense grounding means that the model relies on the common sense, grounds onto that, and produces the answer based on its understanding of the current world. For example, a bird flies over the bridge. What would have happened if the bird has hit the bridge? The answer could be produced by just parroting out what happens in the real world. On the other hand, parametric reasoning is the true reasoning that we are interested in. If a model is doing parametric reasoning, then the reasoning procedure should not rely on the current world, and it should work even in an anti-factual setting, one that contains the facts that are opposite from the common sense. For example, if cats were vegetarians. We intend to disentangle these two factors that underpin the common sense reasoning capabilities of the models. So here comes our first goal. We want to measure the true parametric reasoning capability of large language models. This requires us to construct the common sense reasoning dataset using an anti-factual setting, thereby disentangling common sense grounding from parametric reasoning. When constructing the reasoning dataset, we want to have the nice properties of formal reasoning. Formal reasoning relies on symbols. They are extensible, scalable, and it is possible to precisely control the structures of the reasoning trees. On the other hand, common sense reasoning is a type of informal reasoning. It relies on the implicit common sense knowledge. The datasets are hard to extend, hard to scale, and it is hard to control the reasoning tree structures. So here comes our second goal. We look forward of incorporating the properties of formal reasoning into a common sense reasoning dataset and setting up a framework to generate common sense reasoning dataset semi-automatically. To achieve those two goals simultaneously, we propose Accord, an anti-factual common sense reasoning disentanglement benchmark. We try to measure common sense reasoning capability supporting an anti-factual setting. Also, we incorporate many formal reasoning properties into the datasets. Following is a brief summarization of Accord's steps. First, we formalize the common sense reasoning skills. Each skill is considered an edge along the reasoning tree that connects two nodes. For example, to formalize hydrogen is part of water, we use the edge part of that connects two nodes, hydrogen and water. Second, we construct pairing template. For each CSQA instance, we craft a pairing template where we manually specify one reasoning skill that contains two variables. One of the variables is grounded with a question-specific term, and the other variable remains free. For example, the CSQA question, where is hydrogen in, is paired with the template, part of VP VX, where VP is specified as hydrogen and VX remains free. This pairing template has a corresponding natural language expression. Hydrogen is part of VX. The third step is to construct reasoning trees based on the pairing templates we have just specified. This slide shows a reasoning tree example with two hops. Hydrogen, part of water, spatial ocean. This reasoning tree supports the reasoning procedure that answers the question, where is hydrogen in? The correct answer is ocean, because hydrogen is part of water and water molecules appear near ocean. The fourth step is to compose reasoning paths. This slide shows two examples of adding an additional reasoning node onto the tree, hydrogen, part of water, spatial ocean. In the blue example, we concatenate a node Earth on the right-hand side of the tree. Effectively, this adds 1 to the number of reasoning hops. In the green option, we add a distractor. This node, lake, is added to the tree by the edge spatial. We add 1 to the number of distractors without adding the reasoning hops. Note that not all of the composition is possible. Please refer to Appendix in Figure 8, where we provide a nuanced discussion of the scenarios. Step 5 is to control for dataset artifacts. We consider the following factors while setting up the dataset and try to eliminate as many artifacts as possible. For example, lexical matching. We want the models to make decisions based on the meanings of the sentences rather than the matching of the lexical terms. So we duplicate the trees for each answer choice. Additionally, we consider the ordering of the statements both within and between the trees, and we remove the duplicated statements. Step 6. This is how Accord supports anti-factual setting. Along the reasoning tree, each of the edges could be toggled into the opposite, as illustrated by the orange edges. This allows us to construct reasoning trees that are anti-factually grounded. To correctly solve questions along these reasoning trees, the large language model should do parametric reasoning without common sense grounding. Overall, Accord is a framework for setting up rigorous and scalable common sense reasoning dataset. We apply Accord to the CSQA to build a dataset. This dataset contains 93 templates with tree sizes spanning from 1 to 5. In total, there are 245,514 unique reasoning trees. This is a huge dataset, so we also did some balanced downsampling and produced a smaller version containing 2,864 unique trees. We released both versions of the dataset. Compared to several other reasoning datasets, Accord CSQA supports both counterfactual and anti-factual reasoning. Because Accord incorporates the good properties from the former reasoning dataset, Accord CSQA supports the formalization of reasoning skills, is composable, and it supports a wider range of reasoning hops and distractors than the previous common sense reasoning dataset. Here's a snapshot of some of our experiments that evaluates the state-of-the-art large language models. We found that in general, the reasoning accuracy decreases with the number of hops and the number of distractors. Also, the accuracies of the factual reasoning problems are significantly higher than the accuracies of the anti-factual reasoning problems. This indicates that a large portion of the large language model's reasoning capabilities still come from common sense grounding, in other words, parroting. In summary, we propose Accord. Accord measures common sense reasoning capability in an anti-factual setting, disentangling common sense grounding from the parametric reasoning. Accord incorporates the nice properties of formal reasoning datasets, supporting careful controls of the reasoning hop number and distractor numbers, etc. We hope that Accord provides useful tools and datasets for rigorously studying and improving the large language model's reasoning capabilities.